Good morning, Boquete. Good morning, Cherokee. Good morning, Veronica down in David. Good morning, Bolivar, our engineer here in the studio in Boquete. You're listening to BoqueteNOW Talk Radio on Radio Cherokee 103.3 FM. We are sponsored by Big Daddy's Grill and ACCB Boquete, one of the more prominent charities here in Boquete. We got a great show for you today. I have in the studio Kevin Fisher with Boquete and Beyond. And if you don't know what Boquete and Beyond is, you are about to find out. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Very glad to be here.
And it's I haven't actually talked to you in a while. I remember when you first getting the app together, we'd converse back on Messenger for a little while there, and then life happens, right?
Everything just rolls right along.
So before we get to Boquete and Beyond, how about a little about yourself? How long have you been in Boquete? What brought you to Panama?
Well, I've been here 12 and a half years.
Wow.
The adventure was one of those where I didn't leave the United States to go to Panama. I actually owned land in Costa Rica.
Oh, wow.
And moved to Costa Rica, and after 3 weeks of living there, realized that we'd made a mistake.
Oops.
Our container was on the water on its way to Costa Rica.
Oh, wow.
And we owned a piece of land. But it was, we'd visited. It wasn't like we just went there sight unseen.
Yeah.
But there was something about after 3 weeks, we just went, this isn't it.
Yeah.
That was a Friday night. By Monday, we were on a bus because we had lots of suitcases and 2 animals. So we were on our way to Panama and had done a little bit of research. Matter of fact, that particular weekend, thank God the internet was working, which is one of the problems in that area we were in, was infrastructure. My wife gets on the computer, starts doing research, and finally says, well, there's this place called Boquete. It looks kind of interesting. It was like, well, okay, let's go there.
Yeah, why not?
And it was not that far from the border.
Yeah.
So that's how we got here.
Wow.
and then, my wife is, we're divorced, and she's back in the States, so I've been here ever since. But I love it here. I say this to people, and it is kind of a standard line for me, but it is the truth. I can't imagine living anywhere else. Yeah, I love it here that much.
Yeah, and it's funny because my wife and I, when we decided to move here, the length of time between when I said we were driving in our car and I said, hey, you want to run away with me? Now, we're married 27 years at this point, right? She says, sure, where you want to go? And I said, I don't know, how about Panama? And we had actually previously had explored Costa Rica online, and by that time, this is maybe 3.5 years ago, it was already not the place to be anymore. I mean, it got very expensive, whatnot. And she said, okay, so 3 months later, we're getting off a plane at Tocumen, and we landed in Playa Uvarito, outside of Las Tablas in the Azuero Peninsula. And we rented a place sight unseen from the internet for 6 weeks, and it wasn't 2 weeks later we were like, no, it's too hot. We don't like. It's why we're here, right?
Right.
It was just no. We were like, okay, well, we need to either go back or move on. And like we were on the internet, and I was like, oh, Boquete, it's cool, it's, the climate's nice, and we. Ended up having to forfeit 4 weeks worth of prepaid rent that we had put down on there, but we landed here May 1st of 2018.
Okay.
And can't imagine really living anywhere else. This community is unbelievable in every stretch of the imagination. It's just a great place to be. So I'm guessing that after 12 years, you're staying.
Yeah, I think I'm.
You're
In fact, out of that 12 years, I have been outside of Boquete probably a total of 2 months.
Oh yeah.
I'm just here. This is home. And I let people talk about going on vacation. It's like traveling is okay, but I live in a place. This is the kind of place people go on vacation.
You live in a vacation destination.
Yeah, so every day I see it. I drive into town from where I live. I drive down into town, and it's just the view of the mountains, the surrounding us.
It's majestic. There's really no other way to. You're coming down Jaramillo, and there's a few spots, where the vegetation, the trees open up, and you just look. I live down in Bajo, maybe about half a kilometer from here, at the bottom of the hill. And every time I come back from going south, and I get past the Safati, and I make that second S curve, I will never get tired of that view. Just the whole, and at night, oh my gosh, it's awesome. So basically, getting, I know there's people like, okay, well, quit chit chatting. We want to hear about Boquete and beyond. Okay, I hear you. It's just a fascinating place to be, and I'm guessing because of your love for this area was one of the reasons why you decided to start it. So tell us, what is Boquete and Beyond? Okay. How did it start?
Well, you kind of touched on part of my love for Boquete. I mean, at its core, it's a gift to the community. It's a public service project. Wow. I mean, at some point, I hope to make some money. I mean, I would really love if I could even break even.
Sure.
That would be, because my electrical business has been subsidizing this project for 3 years.
Yeah.
Which means, I have to work to keep everything going.
Yeah.
Which puts a time crunch. So I've got a serious time problem. So anyway,
I put in a request for a 34-hour day. I have not heard back on that yet.
That would be fantastic.
I'll let you know.
So as I looked around, I saw that there were a lot of resources for Boquete. There's a bunch of websites. At that time, when I first did the research, there were over 40 Facebook groups that you would come up if you chose Boquete.
Sure, there's still a bunch.
And what I saw was none of it was really user-friendly. And this is not to knock other people's products. I'm just saying as a user, like somebody looking for information, yes, you can go to these different websites, and basically all of the information we need is available, but you have to know which place to go.
So it's a navigation part of it.
Yeah, so I thought, well, how about if I try to do something where I concentrate the information that most people want most of the time? And that was the reason. Now that started as a smartphone app. And the smartphone app, I made it so big that it was so slow to load. The day I launched it, I realized what a mistake I'd made. But I'd never built an app before. I didn't know what I was doing. So I put so much information in there for Boquete that if you were even on a good Wi-Fi signal, it would take 20 or 30 seconds to load.
And you know what? That doesn't sound like a lot of time, but that's an eternity.
No! In this day and age, that's death.
You tap on an app icon, and if it's not up in 3 seconds,
it's trouble. So I've searched and found another app platform that had some I'm not going to go into the technical part because people's eyes will glaze over, but it had the possibility of making it faster. Completely rebuilt it on this other app platform. Took them now another 6 months of just rebuilding.
Sure.
And about the time we're ready to launch, found out that this thing that was going to help with speed, the people who were doing it were flakes, and I wasn't going to be able to use it. So the second one was even slower than the first one.
No.
So I never published it. So that brings us up to like last December. So for the next couple of months, I'm just I'm dying. It's like, what am I going to do?
That's frustrating.
And then COVID hits. Okay, so now this part is one of the silver linings of COVID. So they closed the Tuesday market, and I'm seeing these vendors, it's like they don't have a connection to their customers anymore. So I started building order forms. Anna's Veggies, Global Food Providers, Cloud Forest Botanicals, and started building these order forms so people could place orders and then they could figure out how to connect up for deliveries. And the second app had the ability to create a little bit of a web version as opposed to on a smartphone. And so I used that and put up these order forms and instantly got feedback that people who were doing it on computers were having a terrible time. Stuff wasn't displaying correctly. It looked like crap. And so I realized that I needed to have an actual website to house these order forms. And I had to get that ready by the next order cycle because the all these vendors are used to people picking up on Tuesday.
Right.
So they want to have everything ordered for the weekend. So by Sunday night, I'm realizing I actually need a website, at least for these order forms.
Yeah.
And I'd poked around on WordPress a little bit, but I'd never actually built a site. So that was a realization on Sunday night. So Monday morning, I'm starting out in WordPress. Now, for those of you who don't know, going from an app building platform where everything is narrowly defined,
Sure.
tight number of templates. So going to WordPress is like going from your tiny, tiny, tiny little corner store into a big box store for the first time, like PriceSmart or Walmart.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk in, it's just gigantic, and there's stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
I was in total system information overload.
Oh, yeah, like searching for a theme.
Oh,
yeah, there's only 87,000 to choose, and you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And scrolling. I know.
But I had to have something ready by,
Yeah.
so that meant they wanted, the next order cycle would start on Thursday, which meant I needed Wednesday to test, which means I have Monday and Tuesday to get this thing up and running. And so I threw something together. I mean, and it was functional. People on computers were happy. It worked on phones. And so that was the beginning. And then I built, then a few more order forms came in. And basically for the next year, I subsidized them because the order forms were going to be an idea of like, actually, I can charge money for this. Wow, what a concept. But I didn't charge anybody. You know, everybody got to use my order forms for free for a year. I finally started charging in March, and of course, 80% of them dropped out, which was okay.
You can expect that.
I did it as a public service, so now I do have a tiny bit of revenue from a couple of them. So that, I mean, it's like I tell you, the first payment I received was $10. It was from Anna's Veggies, and I'll tell you that $10. Yeah, that's the best $10 I've ever made in my life. It was like, gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So then the website's been growing and growing. So for those of you who still have the original smartphone app, a year ago I had so now the other thing was I now have to decide, am I going to maintain two platforms?
Yeah.
And my decision was I just can't do that because nothing could be done in both places at the same time.
Right.
So if I add something in the app,
You got to add it to the website.
and so I discontinued my subscription with the app building platform. So I have no admin privileges. I can't go in the back office and do anything.
Change anything,
But for some reason, this app platform has not taken it down. It's still on their servers. So if you still have the app on your phone, it will load.
It's obsolete.
But it's obsolete. So, please delete it. Or, there's stuff on there that's not on the new one yet, which is another part of the story. But so anyway, for those of you who still have it, it's outdated. I can't update it. So please go to the website. it's where things are happening now.
I might actually have the old app on here.
Yeah, you probably do. Yeah.
Because I think I was one of the first ones to download it because you had sent it to me. Let's see, Boquete and Beyond. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Taking Kevin's advice here, I am deleting that off my phone. Gone. There
Excellent.
you go.
Good
See?
idea. And then that frees up room on your phone, too,
Yeah.
for other stuff.
So the purpose of the original purpose of this was obviously, like you said, a community service. But how is the website laid out? What's the content on it? And what are I know there's categories on there, and you have different categories of businesses and charities. And we're going to get to the charity thing in a little while. But how is the website laid out, and what information is on there? I mean, what can you find on there?
Okay. Well, I've been trying to replicate all of the contents of the original app. Because one of the decisions I had to make in the very beginning was, how am I viewing what I'm producing? And I decided that everything I'm going to do it from the user's point of view, the visitor's point of view. Yeah. And that forced me into some decisions. I mean, one of the forks in that road was, I cannot attempt to monetize it anywhere in the near future, because online or in anything, content is king.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And so I had to ask myself, why would someone either install my app or go to my website? Well, it's because there's something there. There's useful information.
Right.
So I focus solely on adding as many things as possible. So one of the core decisions was everybody gets a free page. Doesn't matter who you are, you can have a free page that has your logo, email, phone, and full description of your business for free. Everybody gets that. And so I started with, when I started rebuilding, first, we'll get to the charity stuff, but the first thing I built was the charity stuff, community resources. And then I started building, adding really small businesses, like people who are translators.
Right, yeah.
You know, all those little businesses that are kind of back in the backwoods that nobody
like sole
sees.
proprietorships, working out of your house, whatever,
So I added all those, and then things like, taxis. If you want to know who the English-speaking taxi drivers are, well, they're on my site.
Wow.
And so whoever, and everything, and then I added a section with, I call it expat services, so attorneys and people who are like personal assistants. They're people you can just hire them to help you do all your stuff.
Like
all
a
that kind of,
or something like that.
like a concierge service. Yeah, all those are on there, or all the ones I'm aware of. And part of what I do. Now, there are some categories where I am more careful. If it's kind of certain generic categories, I don't care who you are. I just put you on there.
Sure.
Now, other categories, I have attempted to be more discerning, like, for example, attorneys.
Sure.
And the way I use Facebook as my research tool. I would watch on Facebook, and someone would say, they would ask about an attorney. And so you would get all these responses. Oh, this is my attorney, and they're really great. Da 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 da. So the only ones that are on there are where I saw that happen naturally, of someone endorsing them, and then a whole bunch of other people saying, "Yeah, this person's great." That did the same thing with taxis. Actually, taxis. Those are all the ones on there are people who had the same thing happen. Somebody would post, "Hey, I need a taxi driver," and bam, all these people would respond.
Well, that taxi category, I have to tell you that's something that is really, really needed. If you go through the usual Facebook Boquete, community Facebook page, or the Boquete News, there frequently you'll see somebody post, I need a taxi driver, and there's a lot of people here who have mobility issues. They have physical disabilities. They can't walk from their house. When my wife and I first moved here, we lived about 3 blocks from the station here in an apartment building, and it was a block from the road. We got out of the house, walked down, grabbed a taxi. There's a lot of people who can't do that.
Right.
And they need someone they can call that will be willing to come to their house and pick them up. So that's an important, as far as I'm concerned, that's probably one of the most important services for people with disabilities here. And this is an older community.
Yes.
So that's kudos, man. That's cool.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, and I occasionally what I'll do on Facebook is I'll see someone says I need a taxi, so I drop in the link to the page of all the taxis. And boy, I mean, people really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this exists. And then eventually I had to put on there which one spoke English. On the menu page where you see all the names, then in parentheses it says English for the ones that are fluent, and because that's really important.
Yeah.
So, and then I, certain sections like. Can we switch to the new homepage? Can we talk about my new homepage?
Anything you want.
Okay, so I started getting hints. You know how some of your friends just tell you to your face, and some of them are a little more subtle. So I finally started getting the message that my existing homepage really sucked. I mean, it was really terrible.
Don't you just wish someone would say, "Hey, dude, your page sucks. Redesign it."
Yeah, and it was one of those things where a year ago when I got the homepage built, I had to move on to other things. So it was like, okay, this is functional, and now I've got to do all these other things because I'm trying to replicate this entire app. And the other thing is, even though I now kind of have my formula, building pages for people in WordPress it takes 10 times longer than in an app. So this rebuilding process, I've been doing it a year. I'm not even half done. Whereas the other one, when I replicated the app between the first one and the second one, it took about 6 months. So the time frame, the time scale of this is blowing my mind. I thought I would be completely done with building and I would be just in maintenance mode and tweaking. So anyway, so the homepage was like out of sight, out of mind. But then finally it was brought to my attention that I really needed to do something about it. So the new homepage is completely redesigned. I think it's awesome. It's the very top of it is a photo gallery of Mark Heyer photography of Boquete, and it's just stunning. I mean, he's such a good photographer.
I'm going to that now. Yeah, Mark's been on the show here a couple of times. He's a great guy. Him and Martine.
Yeah.
So let's go to Boquete and Beyond. Nice little logo you got there. Yeah, I recognize his photography is very, very distinct.
Yeah, there's something about it's something. I remember read a blurb on one of his photographs one day about some of the equipment that he's using. So he's using some really, really high quality. I don't know if it's a standalone camera. I'm not sure exactly what his equipment is, but he was describing something about the images and how they're made. It was so anyway. Yeah, he does something really unique because his photos are just so striking and stunning.
And unfortunately, I have not had the opportunity yet to look at it on a desktop.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I have not. I have that same time problem as you do,
right?
But I have been pretty much all over the mobile app, and what I like about it as a user, not as a developer, but as a user, is how these well, I don't know if you can see this. Well, here, let's do this. I'll describe it.
Okay.
And then we'll when I do my post-production promo, I guess.
Okay.
I'll put the links in there for the website. But each one of these categories is a very tastefully done icon that is almost the entire width of your device.
Yeah.
So there is no squinting.
Right.
Trying to read, a blue font on a red background.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure we've both seen some pretty horribly designed websites.
Yeah.
But this is very simple, and a lot of people don't understand how a user really appreciates simplicity.
Yes.
It's very easy to get caught up in all kinds of design, just designs and clutter and what. And this is very simple. Furry friends, dog and a cat, right?
Yeah.
Food and restaurants. You got online ordering, community resources. We'll talk about that. Jobs and ride-sharing platforms, and then there's a little, our goal and gallery, and then some, I guess,
just other resources.
Just other resources.
Yes.
And the simplicity of this is, I think, where it really shines, because, as I said, it's very easy to get caught up in, oh, this looks cool, this is flashy, this is fancy, all kinds of arrows and drop-down menus and whatever, and to just be able to open it up and tap on.
Now, one of the significant changes, though, because in the app building world, smartphone apps, at least the platform I was on, the navigation is through what I would call menu pages. It's like you go through a category, then there's a subcategory.
Right. You drill down. But the new menu system is a rat. Now, it's a little bit different on phones, but it still kind of works the same way. Yeah. Like, for example, on either a phone or on a desktop, you can now get to any page on the site in one click from the menu system. Right. And that is, from a user point of view, it is a radical change. And I'm really pleased. And all the feedback on the new menu system it's like dramatic improvement. The other nice thing about it, especially on a desktop where you can see everything, because one of the things I've struggled with is, are people really actually even using my website? I mean, I get some feedback, but I don't think I have enough to really know. And I often wonder how many people have actually really explored what's on there. But what you can do now from the homepage using these menus, they're called fly-out menus. So you hover and it flies out. In 2 minutes, without leaving the homepage, just looking at those menus, you can see everything that's on the site. So I think it's going to make it easier for people to understand the scope of what's on here. Because a lot of people, they might have heard about it through
ordering from Anna's Veggies, for example.
Sure,
So they kind of go to the order page, or they can get to her order form, and they may or may not explore other places. And what this allows people to do is to explore without actually having to go anywhere. You can just look at all these things right on the homepage.
Well, this menu system has become wildly popular on the WordPress platform. I've got probably a dozen websites out there, and I use the exact same menu system for that reason. And you know, I've got software installed on mine where I can track how many people visit, what pages they visit, how long they stay there, and I'll send that information to you. It's free. But with these menus, with the way these flyout menus work, most people, from what my research has showed me, out of every, say, 1,000 people, more than 900 of them don't use a desktop.
Okay.
They're using a phone or a tablet, whether it be an iPhone, an iPad, or an Android phone, or a Samsung tablet. Most people are on a mobile device.
Right.
The rest of them are on laptops. And out of the laptops, a lot of them are netbooks or Chromebooks, which use an Android or a Google operating system platform. So basically, most of the people that are interacting with your website are interacting on some sort of a mobile operating system.
Right.
And this menu system was literally designed to have your phone in hand and do one-click navigation with the thumb.
Right.
So I can navigate you. This is and this is a huge phone too, and it's easier on a regular size phone. I have a Gorilla phone, but your app here, BoqueteNOW.com, by the way, you can literally hold your phone in one hand and navigate the entire site without having to use your second hand. And I'm doing it right now, and I'm just scrolling through this menu, and it takes me to everywhere that I want to go. So that was a really good decision on your part to use that type of menu.
And the amount of time to build that menu system.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh, it took hours. It took hours and hours to first of all figure out how to actually build those kind of menus and have them work.
Right.
And then the process of actually building the menus, I was blown away how long it took.
Yeah. But when it's done, though, you know, it provides. Look, the goal is for this, you know, for anyone who builds a website, but specifically if you're building something for a community service, is to have the community use it.
Yes.
And if the community is frustrated, you know, they're not going to use it.
Right.
And you know, that's just not going to help anybody.
Oh, can we because we're talking about all these changes, and one of the things that happens with changes is we have a problem with caching.
Yeah, we talked about that before the show.
Could you just touch on this for our audience?
I will. Okay, you know, and I'm not going to give you a course on internet caching, and not cache like money, but caching as in collecting information. But a lot of the times, you know, if you frequently visit a website, not just once in a while, but if you check on it on a regular basis, quite often it gets frustrating because the page doesn't load right. You may have been told that there's, you know, updated information on it, and when you go back, there's nothing on there new. It's all old. And in a very small nutshell, these websites, in order to have them load faster, will preload certain parts of the website. So they're assuming when you go back, you want it to load fast. The downside of that is it doesn't automatically push out new content. And if you get someone like Kevin who spends quite a bit of time updating his website, there's a chance if you go there that you're not going to see that, or the page is not going to load right. So what you need to do is clear your browser cache. And I'm not going to sit here and explain how to do that. No. It'll take the rest of the show.
No, don't.
And I've given Kevin a little advice to tell his web developer on how to put that information on there. But if you know how to do that, or if you're savvy with Google searches or YouTube searches, just type in, how do I clear my browser cache? And a browser is what you use to access the internet, whether it be Chrome or Safari or Firefox or Edge or Explorer. There's a bunch of them out there. But your browser stores information for quick retrieval back to the website. So between the browser storing cache, right, and between the website itself storing cache, you might be missing out on some new and cool stuff that Kevin's putting out there, or new vendors that might need your business, right? You know,
Right.
especially now in these pandemic times with lockdowns and curfews, a lot of businesses are struggling.
Yeah.
So you want to get that information out there. So Google how to clear your browser cache, or you look up a YouTube video, and it won't just help you with Kevin's side. It'll help you with pretty much your browsing history. If
Yeah.
you've never done it, and you sit there and you click on a search item in Chrome, for example, and that little thing keeps spinning, and it's like, oh, it's taking me forever. If you clear your browser cache, you're going to be amazed on how much faster you're.
Yeah, it's just a maintenance thing that is good.
Yeah.
Just good practice.
Yeah, it is. It is. And so, yeah, I would strongly suggest that, you know, and this is, like I said, this is the technical lesson part of the show. But since we're talking about a website, a community service website, it's a good idea to learn how to do that, just to get the most out of what Kevin has, has to offer.
All right, so let me tell you about the section that's been taking the most time. Well, there's the food. Actually, we'll get. I want to go to the community resources stuff
Right.
next, but I do want to touch on food and restaurants, because food and restaurants is such a huge category, and I delayed doing that first for a couple reasons. One, it seemed like restaurants during the pandemic, restaurants were they were much more savvy about using other tools like Facebook and all these things.
Yeah.
So I kind of put my attention on like these, like I said, people kind of behind the scenes, like translators and little things like that. So anyway, so last fall I finally started looking at that. I really got to build the food section, because food is such a big deal. And I'm a foodie. I love food.
Oh, you ain't lying.
But
I have a restaurant next door to me. Come on.
Oh, okay, yeah. So when I looked at it, what I saw a project that was so huge, I kind of freaked out.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I had finally, the cumulative effect of the kind of negative energy of the pandemic finally got to me, and I think I got depressed for a while. So.
Yeah, well, it's not hard to do, you know.
So I kept putting off starting food and restaurants, because I also knew once I started it, it was big. So I finally started it about 2 months ago, and it's partly done. Now, here's one of the things I run into. I really want accurate information on there.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I'm sorry, all you restaurateurs who this applies to. I'm really not trying to call you out, but they are terrible at communicating.
Yeah.
So I'll send a restaurant an email and say, hey, I'm building your free page. Can I make sure it got your hours right? Will you please tell me what your hours are? Because I don't trust any other source of information than if they tell me, because I've seen, and these are some of the more prominent restaurants. They'll have one set of hours on their Facebook page. They'll have one set of hours on their website.
Yep. And then
They'll
Google gives you another set of hours.
They'll have a post on their Facebook page that has different hours. And I just don't trust any unless they tell me directly.
Right.
So trying to get the information to build these restaurant pages has been really frustrating. And I'm just like I'm just sort of plowing ahead, doing what it's like. If I stopped and waited for all those people to respond, it would never get done.
No, this would be a 2-year project.
So anyway, so it's partly done. And I'm working on it. Matter of fact, I think I have a couple of volunteers, Lynn and Leslie McPeak.
Oh yeah, the McPeak system.
They said they would.
I love those ladies.
Oh, they're great. They said they would help me. So I'm going to produce
Yeah.
a questionnaire that's basically a bunch of check marks. That and they're going to, as they go through life, they're going to go into restaurants, because I don't have time.
Yeah.
The optimal thing would be if I went in and sat down with every restaurant. First of all, I could do some marketing, so try to get them as a customer, or just to get their information. So they're going to help me with that. Because the other thing I really want with the food and restaurant guide is I want my search feature to be able to do some really elegant things for people.
Sure,
So, for example, somebody wants to know who serves Sunday brunch.
Right.
Or who's open on Sundays, or open on Mondays, because a lot of restaurants are closed.
Who's
on
open
Monday.
for breakfast?
Exactly. Yeah. So, but for my search engine to find that, it has to be literally on their page. It has to say Sunday brunch on their page. And so that's part of the thing of this questionnaire, is like all the things that are available. So that way I can load all of that onto each restaurant page, and that'll make the search function really cool, because that comes up a lot. People want something really drilled down as specific as, do they just serve Sunday brunch?
Well, especially in this community. I mean, there's well over 100 restaurants in the district, and you've got a lot of retirees here who really enjoy eating out, and I see a lot on the Facebook pages for the community here. Specific questions. I'm looking for a place that sells, that can make me, that sells portobello mushrooms,
Right.
with their pizza. Or I'm looking for a place that, some places aren't open for 3 meals. Some of them are only open for dinner. Some are only breakfast and lunch, right?
Yep.
And there's a constant, an almost constant succession of questions about the food here. Where can I
Yes.
get? Where can I get this? I want to eat that. Who serves this? To have that as a searchable feature on a website would be absolutely just a boon for this community. Again, Boqueteños, whether they be foreigners or locals, love eating out. This town is known for its food.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
is known for its restaurants, and there's some fantastic restaurants here, and I've experienced that too. About going on, you put their name in Google, and a lot of the times it'll give you their hours. Well, then you drive over there and they're closed.
Right.
And I understand that, and I will pick up my phone and I will call them, or if I have them on Messenger, I will ask them. And a good example is the La Cuchilla restaurant. It's right next door to my house. And I go there a lot because they're right next door to my house and their food is good. Well, on Google, it says they're closed on Monday. Well, I had a bunch of friends, that wanted to meet, for dinner, observing all Mensa biosecurity requirements, by the way, and on a Monday.
Yeah.
So I texted her. I said, hey, you guys open tomorrow? She says, on Sunday. And they go, yeah, we're open at 3 o'clock.
Right.
Well, we all had a very nice lunch. By the way, their ribs are just out of this world. But if I would have just looked at their Google hours, I wouldn't have been able to have done that. So, yeah, I really hope that is something that you can get out there. That would be fantastic.
That's my vision for it. And as I'm building people's pages, I'm doing what I can to put it on there, but it literally has to be the questionnaire where someone, and if I can get some help with that, that would be great. So, because I just, like you say, it'll be just 95% of it is just check marks.
Yeah.
And so it'd be really quick and easy.
Just try to make it easy for them because they're busy too.
Right.
And
the rest, anybody in the rest. I mean, I understand the level of difficulty in the restaurant business, and to take time out to answer questions, like they got food they're trying to prepare. So anyway, we're trying to make all that as streamlined as possible, update that section as quickly as I can once I get all that information. I mean, it's searchable now. So, the search feature works, but once I've got all that granular detail in there, it's just going to be terrific.
Now, the search feature, and the reason I come back to this too, because as I have explored your site and saw just all the information that's in there, the general search feature, like if I go to the search page and I type in welder, will it bring up?
Well, if I had any, I don't have any welders.
Well,
yet.
just as
yes,
an example.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it has to be either in their
category?
in their name, or somewhere in the body of the description of what they do. So, I haven't actually gone back. When I've tested it, I've only put in business names.
Right.
And I haven't tried to do something as generic as welder. Yeah. So I have to do that because because there are a couple of different search engines that can be used on WordPress. The one that it's currently accessing, I'm not really sure which one it's using. If it's the default one in WordPress, because I did try to add one that seemed like it had a stronger engine.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm not really sure which one it's accessing. So I just haven't investigated that. All right, let's talk about one of the things that's dearest to my heart, and we all share this, is this town is so generous.
Oh my gosh.
There are so many charities and outreach groups, and that to me is like, as I would tell people, the section that I am most proud of as the creator of it is community resources.
Yes, I definitely want to talk about that. And I saved that for the end of the show because we got 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, and I really, really want to focus on because I know that was the genesis of your entire, entire project. So, yeah, man, the floor is yours.
Okay. So, one of the things there, again, back to looking for information, there are places like Cherokee Life, you can find them.
Yeah.
But there again, as a user searching for it,
Yeah.
I didn't find it. I couldn't get. It wasn't to me. It wasn't accessible enough.
It's kind of an arduous process. Yeah.
So that for me was, I want the user to be able to see all of our lovely. Not all of them are technically charities. They're not all 501c3 or whatever. To my mind, it's people. If I know who they are, and I know they're doing good work, they're in that category, whether they're technically or charity. That's why
Sure.
I like the term outreach groups.
Yeah.
So that's one of the first things I built in the app. And when I got to the website, once I kind of got the order form stabilized, then that's what I built. That's what I built next, was all the community resources. And so one of the things about all these outreach groups, like I told you, anybody can have a free page that has this basic stuff. But charities, they get everything that I offer for free. Any business upgrade that I have available to me, they get it all for free. Mm-hmm. So if you go to, whether it's, the one that is probably the best example, because they have so much stuff that they put out to the community, would be health and hospice.
Oh, yeah.
So if you go to look at there, all the things that you can click on from there, that would be an example of an extremely built out business page on my site with all the links to all the different things. And any charity outreach group in the community can have the same thing. And there again, back to, there's always communication issues among human beings. And so I've tried to let all of those outreach groups know that they also can do all of these things, but some of them don't write me back. It's like they're all busy and we're all busy. So all those things are available. And one of the like major announcements for today is one that we're really excited about, is I've been working with the folks at Dog Camp.
Yeah.
And Dog Camp is really dear to a lot of people's hearts.
Javier, my God, they've been on the show 4 or 5 times. They're great.
They have taken on such a huge, of course, I'm sure when they took it on, they had no idea what it was going to grow into.
Yeah,
but
I know.
Now it's this gigantic project, and fundraising for all charities is an issue, but for guys like them, especially so then COVID hits.
Oh my
and,
God,
because I think what they had done before is, they would have these periodic patio sales.
Yeah.
And that would bring in a lot of their money, and then they would do some fundraising in between. Well, without those patio sales, it's like, what do we do now? So what I have built for them is an order form, just like the other commercial order forms, where people can donate products, especially where it's not going to be like 25 and 35 cent stuff you would find at a patio sale. If it's more nicer items, more significant items. And then, so we have everything that's been donated so far is on there. And there are T-shirts that are available they can order from there. Mm-hmm. And now you can only access it on my site as of today. By Monday, there will be a button on Dog Camp's Facebook page.
Right.
And a button on the Dog Camp website. And so it's going to be a way, because what we're trying to brainstorm is, how can we smooth out this donation pattern? Yeah. And so we think that this order form is a start at doing that. And it can be products, or it can be services that people donate. Like I put a service call on there with my electrical business, right, so someone can get that. Or, the really long-term plan is to try and find businesses or individuals who will become, what's the right term? Sponsors. Sponsors, yeah. So it's like they would agree that, it could be something as, I'm going to use a really kind of silly example, but say a grocery store wants to participate, and they agree that they'll donate one case of soda per month, whatever it is. It can
Yeah.
be anything. So once they become a sponsor, that means they're going to donate X number of times per year. And so then we can count on that going onto the order form, and then create something for recognition, you know, on my website, on their website. These are our sponsors.
Sure. Yeah,
so these
yeah.
businesses can be seen as that they're helping out. So anyway, that's it's available now. So if you go to my site and you go to fly out to Furry Friends, and from Furry Friends you highlight Dog Camp, you will see Dog Camp Marketplace. So it's open for business right now.
Well, let me go over there while you're
Okay.
while you're talking here, because there's nothing like actually being there and looking at it. So
Okay.
let me go to Boquete and Beyond. There we go. Page loads nice and quick. Whoop. I have fat thumbs. So there we go, Boquete and Beyond. So we'll go to the menu here, and we'll go to
It's under Community Resources.
Furry Friends, Dog Camp Boquete, Dog Camp Marketplace. That was easy. Bam, 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 bam.
Yeah.
That's nice. And we're loading up here.
Yeah, there's a lot of items. The order forms can be slow to load because the more items there are, so that there is little delay on the order forms.
Well, I'm also using I'm on LTE with the VPN, so yeah,
Right.
it's not you. Plus, it's an old phone. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, there's a got dropped out for categories: appliances, home furnishings, health services, women's T-shirts, unisex T-shirts. That is really neat. And I'm looking at all the products here. Someone's donated. These are all things that were donated.
Yeah, and most of those are donated. Most of what's there is Lynn and Leslie.
Boombox, headset with microphone, water heater, patio furniture. Wow, this is really nice, Kevin.
Yeah.
Blood pressure cuff, crutches. I mean, there's
See if click on one of the images. See if it pops out bigger. It should. I'm just haven't done it on a phone in a while.
Yeah, let's see. Hold it up there. Keep forgetting we can't just be silent here. We're on live radio. It's not, but that probably got nothing to do with.
Oh, you know, I think
yours.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes when it pops out, it doesn't pop out right where it's supposed to be. It's above or below. I just wanted to see what it was doing.
Yeah, but it's there. Yeah,
Okay.
and you could actually blow it up and get a bigger view of it. So.
Okay, all right. So that part's working mostly.
Yeah, mostly, but it's still it is. That's a really fantastic.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you know, when you're shopping on an online store.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And it even on an old phone with a less than optimal connection with a VPN, it's still loaded pretty quickly.
So that's the first one. So the next one we're going to do is Los Meninos Cat Sanctuary.
Yeah.
So we're going to do one for them. So they're kind of working on what products they want. And also just as part of the whole thing of the public service we're doing. Last year, because I'm interacting with these groups all the time.
Yeah.
And it started to become obvious that there were some problems with Los Meninos website and the Dog Cap website.
Yeah.
And so we kind of looked into it, and turned out, like a lot of these things were built, you know, websites were built by volunteers.
Yeah.
And
they were built years ago.
yeah.
And as you know, if you don't keep your version of WordPress updated,
Right.
things that won't work.
So whoever those volunteers were, they moved on to other projects.
Sure, yeah,
And so
absolutely.
what I saw was these two websites were languishing. So we took on bringing those onto our servers, which of course then the first thing you run into is these folks, they have no idea where the passwords are.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, because somebody else built it. Oh, it took a long time just to get all that. So anyway, we brought both of those websites onto our servers. So all of their costs for that are gone, including paying their domain registry for the names every year.
Sure, yeah.
And Los Meninos was in the worst shape because it had built on a platform called Wix, which is like
gosh,
just
yeah,
like
I know.
ugh.
And don't even get me
So
started on
my
that.
Holly neighbor, Holly Smith, completely rebuilt Los Meninos from scratch using WordPress.
Yeah, you have to. You
So
can't,
anyway, so that's all updated. Those are all on our servers, and of course, we've got really secure. I mean, we got hacked last year, and boy, did we go through some changes over that, and upgrading security and doing all kinds of little things, as well as just keeping all the, even just keeping up what are called plugins updated. That's a place where people get hacked all the time, because no one, if you don't have any administrator going in and making all these updates.
Sure.
So anyway, that was really fun. And one of my lines is, who says cats and dogs don't get along? They're getting along just fine on our servers.
Oh, sure, yeah, right. I know, right? Yeah, the cat sanctuary. Yeah, and I tell you what, one of the probably, you ask anyone who has any kind of a radio or a talk show, talk TV or talk radio, and you have in your mind is always, what are some of your favorite shows, right? Some of the ones where it was just fun, right? And I had Los Meninos on here, I guess maybe 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
And that was a fun show.
Yeah.
I mean, she was explaining all the things that they're doing, the changes they're making, and the new projects they have going on, and that was an especially enjoyable show for me. Yeah, she's fantastic. She really is.
And also, so this thing of
Judy,
I'm willing to have any of these charitable organizations, if they want an order form as a way of enhancing their fundraising, contact me and we'll get it set up.
Yeah.
And it's just part of what I do. I mean, that's, and the whole thing with the order forms, that is a place where hopefully I can make money, and that's a whole separate expense. That's a separate platform. That's a whole nother thing I pay for just to have it. But it's
everything's
available.
got a subscription.
Yeah. But it's a good one though. These order forms are really, I mean, they're top notch.
Well, now do you have a separate phone number for, or do you just use your regular WhatsApp number or what?
Well, I don't publish that.
Okay.
Because everything can be done through email for what I'm doing. And the email is kevin@boquete.app. That's the official email for the business. And also, I realize some people, if you're listening and you're trying to write things down, obviously the full URL is boqueteandbeyond.com. But if you were to type in boquete.app, A-P-P, boquete.app, it'll take you to the same place.
So it's a redirect.
Yeah, use that as a redirect. Yeah.
Well, I'll put all that information in the when I do the post-production promotion. Post-production promotion. I can't believe I actually said that without tripping over.
Say it faster.
No, please. But yeah, I'll put all that in there, and my wife and I and a group of our friends have an outreach group, a charity. It's not an official 501c3, but it's called Operation Feed Estrella. And we've adopted a school up in Jaramillo, Estrella del Valle. And we've been working with them for quite a while. We make sure that they get food every month, and we've done some upgrades to their school, to their kitchen and whatnot. And that's just a drop in the bucket of the need. In the outlying communities here, it's very easy to drive through town, drive on the side streets here, and see some of these nice homes, and it's one of those things you could easily take for granted.
Right.
Excuse me. It's easy to take for granted when you have a car. You can drive and you can go to the grocery store whenever you want. You don't realize the level of need here, and it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
It can really be overwhelming, especially if you, if you spend any amount of time in these outlying communities, particularly the indigenous communities up here in Jaramillo, or the Panamanian communities they're indigent. And you always want to help. This community is one of the most generous communities I've ever lived in, and my wife and I have moved 30 times in 30 years.
Wow.
And it never ceases to amaze me how willing the people here are to help. But it is overwhelming, and to have what you do, to have that all in one concise place where you can navigate it easily without having to be frustrated and trying to navigate a series of wormholes.
Right. And if you want to, there are people who and even people in the state, they want to donate, they want to help. Well, you know, if they have a donation pathway, it's on my site. Click here. Sometimes it takes you to their website payment page.
Sure.
It might take you to a preloaded PayPal page, but it's a way. And I know, like, during that happened a couple of times. You know, people who were stuck in the States wanted to support some particular charity, and this way, you just click on this button and you can go right there, and it's terrific.
And I looked through your list, and it is a really comprehensive list. And I'm guessing it's that way because that's how you started.
Yes.
You started this, but it's really amazing that that we live in a community that is so willing, to help out.
Yes. And that's one of the things. Like I'm kind of partial to working with ACCB as you are. It's like because they kind of take an umbrella approach.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that there are charities and groups that hone in on one thing. I think that's great.
Well, yeah.
At some point you got to get down on the ground level and deal with it.
Yeah.
But they're doing some of that. But I think they're also trying to take a bigger view so that they're not honed in on one. They feed money to a bunch of different things.
They describe themselves as a charity to charities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a member of the ACCB, and they sponsor this show, and I've been involved with them one way or another. I've had Joe and Linda on the show. Chris has been on the show, not just representing Big Daddies, but ACCB, and I've had Mark Rosen on the show. They're probably one of the most frequent guests, and it isn't just because they're a sponsor of the show. It's because of the fact that they represent so many other different charities. They have so many fundraisers going on and all that, and they are really an awesome organization.
Because one of the things, some people who haven't been here that long won't know about Bid for Boquete, but that was a gigantic annual auction. Penny Barrett was one of the anchors in that, and she always had people helping her. And then that would distribute money to different charities. And when that went away, there was a
vacuum.
There was a vacuum in that. So, and I kind of see ACCB as they're not necessarily trying to take on what Bid for Boquete did, but there's something similar about it.
Sure.
That I think is really needed.
Yeah. And well, they started off as just basically for law enforcement and first responders.
Right.
And it's grown from there. And really, it's a fascinating organization. And they have one show every month is an ACCB show. Here on my show, because there's just so much they're involved in. So trying to get that as a community service, trying to get that out.
Now, go ahead.
Yeah, I get Bolivar. How much time we got left, man?
2 minutes.
You got 2 minutes. All right. Well, I need about 30 seconds of that. So if there's anything you want to put out there or touch on before we close the show
Just
out.
one thing briefly. There are so many sections that I haven't even started yet. Travel and tourism, body workers and alternative care. But what I've realized, I've been going at such a breakneck speed. When I finish the food and restaurant section, I'm going to pause adding new sections and just consolidate a little bit.
Yeah, try to work on the stuff that's been and I know that's a tough thing to do. As a website developer for many years, I know you want to move forward, but you still have to finish what you started.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, I know that can be very frustrating. Well, Kevin, people say when I ask them if you want to come on the show, they say, "How long is the show?" And they say it's an hour, and they're like, "Well, what are we going to talk about?" It goes by really fast.
Yeah,
an hour on radio goes by very fast.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for coming out here. And please stay in touch with us. I'm going to put all your information out there. If you have other stuff that you remember between now and maybe Sunday, text it to me.
Okay.
And if you have other, maybe contact information, whatever, we'll get that out there. But we've been talking to Kevin Fisher, Boquete and Beyond. It's BoqueteNBeyond.com or Boquete.app, APP. And thank you. It's been very informative, and you're doing a fantastic thing for our community.
Thank you, and thanks for having me on. And it's great to have maybe a few new people will learn about the site. And
Go
visit.
Well, we're going to promote the crap out of this, so don't you worry about it. All right, you've been Oh my gosh, I got a cough here. It's not COVID. I just smoked too many cigarettes. You've been listening to Boquete Now, talk radio on Radio Cherokee 103.3 FM every Friday morning from 10 to 11, sponsored by Big Daddy's Grill and the ACCB. Thank you for your time and attention, and we will see you next week.